What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome back to The Nerdy Narrative, where today I will be doing my January monthly wrap-up. So I actually have a few numbers for you. Usually I just go in here and I'm like, I read some stuff. Here we go. Let's talk about it. But I actually have some stats because I started this new tracking system. How many books I read. I'll write the titles down here, though I have a couple more I need to add, so I'm going to add a little something in there for that. But I put a little dot for every 20 pages read, and then if I have one that I read 37 pages, I'll put an extra dot and I'll write the number in. And the colors are for genre. So I think green is sci-fi, red is horror, orange is thriller, and purple is fantasy. So looking at these numbers, I read 12 total books for the month of February, somewhere a little over 4,000 pages. I had 3 DNFs, 1 graphic novel, and a couple of short stories and a nonfiction essay. Let's get into those titles and talk about them. Since it happens to be on top of the stack, we're going to start with the nonfiction essay that I read by Joan Didion, which was Rock of Ages. It is about Alcatraz. She really knows how to write atmosphere and transport the reader to that location while also conveying the feel of it. It was a great essay and really demonstrated Joan's ability to write. Moving into the next genre, which I combined horror and thrillers together, the first thing that I read was Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. Jessica Johns started this one off the way that I love for my horrors to start, and that is an explosive beginning, a taste of what is to come. Unfortunately, when we got past that and into just the regular meat of the story, the pacing slowed way down. I really enjoyed the main character, Mackenzie, her family. She had a very large family. They felt very exuberant. I would have loved to have gotten to know them more, but honestly, that probably just would not have fit well into the story as it was written. And by the time the book ended, it had picked up a little bit more, but there wasn't enough of a horror vibe for me. I applied for the ARC because this one was being pitched as a horror story. It had a horrific beginning, but after that beginning, the horror element was pretty much non-existent. At least it was in my opinion. So this one ended up just being middle of the road for me. If it's one that you've been interested in picking it up, definitely still do so, but I would recommend checking it out from your library. Next up in this genre, I picked up The Pain Eater by Kyle Muntz. I had a lot of issues with this book. I ended up DNFing it around maybe 70%. The whole reason I read as much of it as I did is because the idea behind this story had me in its grip. I wanted to know about this cat that wasn't a cat, a creature, if you will. I really felt that even though it wasn't executed well, the story behind it was going to be worth it, and it was not. I also read a collection of short stories by Michael Jess Alexander that fall firmly into the horror category. It includes 6 short stories. I call them bite-sized horror. Each one you can read in 20 minutes or less, and they're so good. Some of them are scary. Some of them are going to make you think. Some of them are going to make you laugh, even though you're going to feel bad about laughing because it's very macabre. Very macabre. It's appropriately named 6 Macabre Tales. When September rolls around, I'm definitely going to be mentioning this collection again. I know a lot of my friends aren't horror readers, but around that time of year they want to read a little bit of horror. This is going to be the collection I'm going to be recommending to all of them. And while we're on the subject of short scary tales, I have another collection that I'm going to be reading very soon. It comes out in June. This is A Bunch of Fives by James Flynn. I've read a previous collection of his, The Hand That Pulls You Under. That is such a memorable collection. Those are stories you are not going to forget for one reason or another. I'm excited to read James's work for this one. I feel very certain this is going to be another collection that I'm going to be recommending to my friends come September and October. So be looking out for this one. The author is hosting a giveaway if you sign up on their website for the newsletter. I will have that link to James's site down in the description box below. There's going to be other things than just the short story collection that he's giving away, so check that out. Finally, the last one in this particular genre I read for the month was the Wine and Crime book club pick, Sarah Gailey's Just Like Home. Wow, this book was a 5-star read for me all the way through until the end. The tone switched so abruptly from one of mystery, suspense, the fear of the unknown. You're not sure. Are we dealing with a haunted house? Are we dealing with someone who perhaps has multiple personalities? What's going on? Is it a ghost? Not only do you have the mystery of the house, there's also the mystery of all the characters that are involved. There's so much for the reader to have fun wondering about, guessing about, coming up with theories about. We had a really great time discussing this one, as we always seem to do when talking about Sarah Gailey's work. It's not that we love their writing so much. In fact, a lot of us don't particularly care for their writing style. I'm one of those. I actually think part of my problem with the writing style is Sarah Gailey does not, at least in the 2 books I've read, they don't write likable characters. In fact, I don't think I've ever liked a character that they've written yet. But there's just something about the way they write that sparks some amazing discussion. So I would recommend this one, but I would say get it from your library just in case that ending doesn't work for you. Moving into science fiction. All of the great reads aside, I did have a couple of DNFs in this category. The first one is The Rising Storm, which is the 3rd book in the Star Wars High Republic series. I just couldn't do it anymore. 2 of the books that I read were good. The other 2 were extremely boring. I think with them changing authors so much, that's a detriment to the series, to the continuity of it. The authors having to sort of rewrite a little bit so they can connect their story to it. I don't know. It's just, I'm done. My other DNF was actually one of my SPSFC reads, The Cellist by Jules Cantor. The book started off great. I think it would be more aptly described as a futuristic crime thriller. We're solving a murder mystery. Towards the beginning, there was mention of Matt, an organon, a supercomputer that was helping one of the detectives that was investigating the murder that took place in the very first chapter. There were a lot of people that talked in conversation about these computers because these computers have put a lot of people out of work. It's very difficult to get a job. All of a sudden, we get several chapters of nothing but straight info dumping. And then I'm thinking, I can't do this, so I DNF'd it. Luckily, that is where the DNFs stopped for me for the month of January, and it was smooth sailing for the rest of the month. I read Echogenesis by Gary Gibson and really enjoyed it. A group of people wake up in these pods on what appears to be another planet. So there's this whole mystery of trying to determine why they're there, how they got there, and why a lot of them are 20 years younger than they remembered. You also have some really great horror elements as they encounter the inhabitants of this world, and they are not friendly. The next 3 sci-fi books I'm going to talk to you, these 3 work together to change my mind about a certain element I thought I did not like, and I now love, and I am looking for more like, and it has to do with artificial intelligence. Now, that journey began when I read Nathan Johnson's The Chaos Principle. This story takes place in what is called the Realm, and it features Detective Ansel Black. He is the last detective because the rest of the force has been disbanded. Why has it been disbanded? Because of Annie, who is an annotated intelligence, far advanced beyond just artificial intelligence. Now, an issue arises when 5 bodies are found murdered, and Detective Ansel is on the case with the help of Annie. The more Ansel investigates, the more he learns and discovers and starts questioning things, as well as himself. It's very thought-provoking and speculative, and you're going to find yourself thinking about it days, weeks, and even months later. Next, I read Kuiper Station, which is the first book in the Kuiper series by Wilbur Seymour. This book was so fun. What I really loved most about this one is the friendship between Bob, who is the master technician of Kuiper Station, which is a decommissioned space station. It's turned into a sort of mining colony. People that go there knowing they're never going to be allowed to leave. They're usually running from something. The insight the author gives you on the character Bob is very deep, but it's given to you in these tiny breadcrumbs throughout the story. So by the time you get to the end of the book, you know Bob better than Bob knows himself, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen with his character in the next book, which I'm going to be reading next month. My final read of the sci-fi genre was Echoes of Another Earth by J. Daniel Layfield. When I finished this book, I immediately downloaded every single book I could find by this author. I was intrigued by the mystery, I laughed, I loved, I cried. I was so sad when it was over. It was just the best book. It is a standalone. I was hoping it was going to be part of a series, but that's okay. The author has plenty of other stuff I can read. The book opens up. We meet Josh. Right as Josh finds out that an asteroid is about to hit Earth. Because for whatever reason, the universe, while it seems to have this bullseye on Josh's back that it keeps aiming for, it yanks him out, sends him to another universe. So how is this happening? So he copes by just taking over for that particular Josh that he's replaced. He tries to live their life the way they had lived it. Where does the laughter come in? That would be through Josh's best friend, Dave. And Dave steals the show. He is so funny. Everybody deserves to have a friend like Dave. I had so much fun with this book. I just absolutely adored it. I cannot wait to read more by J. Daniel Layfield. And I want to say all of the science fiction books that I have mentioned are included in your Kindle Unlimited subscription. So if you're subscribed to that service, almost all of the science fiction books that I've talked about today are included. So the last of my stack here appears to be all fantasy. I finished right at the beginning of the month Dreams of Dust by Lily Ann Crow and absolutely loved it. That's another book. As soon as I finished, I immediately got book 2, River of Stars, which I have that on my TBR. As soon as I finish up with SPSFC, I'm going to get that one read. This one is a hidden gem of the fantasy world. I can't believe, since it is part of SPFBO, the fantasy blog off competition, I can't believe more people aren't talking about this one yet. The author executed the quest trope so well. We also have what feels like it might be a complex magic system. I won't know. We're still learning about it. So I'll have to wait and let you know once I read more in book 2. But we spend the entirety of book 1 learning about this magic system alongside one of our young characters. I'm also a huge fan of the found family trope. This one had it in spades. Everything I could have wanted was given to me in this book. Moving on. So I have begun my reread of the Dresden Files, and I'm doing it in chronological order, and I'm including the graphic novels and the short stories where they go. So for January in my Dresden reads, I started with the short story A Fistful of Warlocks, which is set in the days of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Butcher ties that in with the Dresden Files because Anastasia Lucio finds herself in Wyatt Earp's town on the hunt for a warlock. Next up in chronological order came the short story A Restoration of Faith, which is in Side Jobs. This is where readers first meet Harry Dresden and you get a good look at his character, what kind of person he is on the inside. Oh, so cute. Next was Welcome to the Jungle. This is the first time I've ever read any of the Dresden graphic novels, and they were perfection. It is everything I love about the Dresden Files, but in picture format. The artist did an amazing job capturing the characters. Oh, so good. I mean, that's all you're going to hear me say about the Dresden Files. It's so good. It's so good. Those 2 short stories and the graphic novel led me to the first novel in the Dresden Files, which was my 3rd or 4th time rereading Stormfront. I did utilize the audiobook for this, which is narrated by James Marsters, who played Spike in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he is Harry. He is a genius when it comes to inflecting his voice to portray the emotion and the inner turmoil that Harry experiences as he's investigating his case. Let's talk about my reread of The Eye of the World. Many times I have described rereading The Eye of the World or The Wheel of Time as the feeling of coming home. I first read this book in the mid-90s as a little baby teenager. I have read this book since, I don't know how many times. The last time I reread it was 2 years ago, I think. When I was reading it, it felt more like I was remembering it rather than reading it, if that makes any sense. It's such a well-loved, well-known story to me, and I still found a whole page worth of things that I wrote down to note. That's why I love to reread. You know, I notice something new every time, or I focus on a different character or something they've gone through, something I can now relate to because of something I've been through. I love the series. I was was in a live show discussion with Kate from the Literary Apothecary, Stacy, and Anita. I will put that link down in the description below. If you would like to hear the four of us talk about it, it was Anita's first time to read The Eye of the World. While we're talking about all these rereads, let's go ahead and talk about my last reread, which is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It is the last illustrated edition that is currently out. So I am putting the other two books on pause until I have the pretty pictures to look at. I have one more fantasy book here that I read, and this is a dark fantasy. It is Gods of the Black Gate. It is the second book in Joseph Sells' Book of Thrice Dead series. This installment of the series, to tell you that doesn't spoil anything in the first book or the end of this book. Let's see. Serial killer. Y'all know I am a fan of serial killer stories. This one is no exception. But this is not just a serial killer story. It's not cookie cutter. This is Joseph Sells' take on a serial killer. If you pick up a book by Joseph Sells, there are 3 things that I can guarantee you in those books. Outstanding character development, intricate plot mechanics, and somewhere along the way, he's gonna F you up in your mind and just put it in knots. And then you're just gonna be like, and it's just genius. It's always a good time, even when it's really dark. When I read the first book, I saw a foreshadowing about this book, and I'm so excited that that's what this one was about. I can't tell what book 3 is gonna be about. I am so excited. Oh, actually, I think I have it. I just thought about the title of the 3rd book, and I think I figured it out, but I can't tell you, of course, because that would spoil the end of this one. This book is actually out today, February 1st, so by the time this goes up on the channel, it will be out. So y'all can pick up book 1 and book 2, and each month hereafter, another book in the series is going to be out. So they're all going to be out this year. It's a 6-book series. All 6 books are written and ready to go, so you don't have to worry about that for those of you that don't like to start a series that isn't finished. I can tell you it's finished because I have the art for them, and I'm going to be reading and reviewing them. I forgot! I finished another book late last night. It's part of the sci-fi genre. It's called The Dreams That Bind Us by Maximilian Lopez. The reason why it slipped my mind is because I haven't written my review yet. I got up to talk to you guys about all the books I read in January 1st. This book was fun as hell to read. We have 3 different characters. We get all of their points of view. You would not have ever put these 3 together. They are the most unlikely trio of people to meet, and how they meet is very interesting. I'm trying to figure out if I can tell you how they meet in a non-spoiler way. Well, if I tell you a little bit about the synopsis, you'll be able to put 2 and 2 together. So I guess it's not that much of a spoiler, because if you think about the synopsis and you think about the characters, then you're going to figure it out. This is a sci-fi thriller that explores the possibility of when we dream, we're not dreaming something make-believe, we're actually glimpsing into another reality. In other words, ourselves and the life they lead on an alternate Earth. So the book explores how that's possible in a way that made perfect logical sense to me, but I do have to profess, I don't know anything about science. So it's real easy to pull one over on me, or if you make it sound good, I'm gonna buy it hook, line, and sinker, but it really did sound logical. So that is it. Those are all of the things that I read during the month of January. I had a lot of really great reads, and I had some that didn't work for me. That's part of life. That's what happens. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I found a book for you to pick up and try out for yourselves. I loved most everything I read this month. That's a good month. Y'all have to let me know down in the comments below what all you read and loved this month. Again, thank you for being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.